The power hammer, the most indispensable tool for the solo blacksmith.
Alright, it's been a while, and here's an update on some of my recent challenges. I'm using a pneumatic power hammer, a Bullhammer 75. It's great when it works, but lately it has been acting up. Nothing is more frustrating than trying to work hot steel and then the power hammer will not jump into action. My debugging led me to believe that the simple pneumatic ball valve might be at fault. I had noticed that when I manually moved the throttle link that I could still operate the power hammer, but that the play in the mechanism was much too large. Unfortunately, the company that made the power hammer went out of business a long time ago, and this led me down a journey of debugging and discovery. I can also tell you that screws that have not been opened in 10 years are somewhat resistant to being loosened. Anyway, here's the ball valve that I believe may be the problem. In my research, I discovered that it is a 3/4 inch female NPT standard port ball valve rated at 2000 psi for water, oil and gas. Initially I was thinking I might be able to replace a screw or the ball in the valve, but for that I first need to be able to take it apart. I was thinking that I could just order a similar valve and strip some of the new parts out of it to put them into the valve I removed from the power hammer. On my own, I'm clearly too weak to get this part removed. Some extra leverage helps. At first I thought that what I'm removing here was part of the valve, but later on it turns out it's actually a 3/4 inch to 1/2 inch reducer. What you can barely see inside there is the second piece of the valve, and it requires a quite large Allen wrench to take out. Unfortunately, I didn't have a large enough Allen wrench in the shop and needed to get some before I could make further progress. Now the question is whether I can actually get it out. As you can see, more clamps and much more leverage was required to make progress. But it's out eventually, and now I can actually get a look at the inner workings of the valve. I'm really curious to see what I will find inside after 15 years of operation. I can see some corrosion and build-up of old oil. Perhaps some TSP will clean it up. It doesn't, and I also don't see that much wear on the parts. I eventually decide to just replace the whole valve. That was easier said than done, and it took me a couple of months and multiple different valves until I found something that worked. I wrote the part number down in case anyone else runs into this with an old bullhammer. As I now need to weld a new mounting bar to the valve, it's important that I remove all Delrin seals inside, otherwise they would get destroyed by the heat. The removal of parts is quite difficult again and requires a lot of leverage. Now I just need to remove the ball valve and the final Delrin seal, or whatever material that really is. I noticed that there is a band of this material inside of the housing that cannot be removed, so we'll have to be very conscious of temperatures when welding. The mounting bar that I will weld to the valve needs to match the screw holes in the power hammer frame. Transfer punches are the best way to make sure that the holes are going to line up perfectly. Or at least that's the theory, as I still need to be able to drill the holes precisely, which, while simple in theory, is not always as straightforward either. To make this easier, I drilled smaller pilot holes and am now following up with the right diameter, 5/16 if I recall correctly. All that remains is to weld the bar to the valve, being incredibly careful not to overheat the housing, so you see me welding here quite timidly. And what you don't see is the water cooling in between welding. Since the whole exercise from finding the power hammer broken, not being able to find the right valve, or the strength required to disassemble pieces was somewhat vexing, I need to celebrate this ordeal with some color. After the spray paint dried, I just need to put everything back together. First the valve, and then the pneumatic assembly of the power hammer. If you ever published a video to YouTube with music, you are used to false and fraudulent copyright claims against your videos. I decided to take this further, and am now making my own music. Check it out on SoundCloud, the link is in the description. The one part where I messed up was in increasing the size of the rectangular hole in the throttle linkage. There's too much play now, and I'm worried that it may cause problems. A quick word on applying Teflon tape to threads. You want to apply the tape in the direction in which you will screw it on, otherwise the screwing action may take the tape off. If you look carefully, you will notice I did it the wrong way around. Alright, this is getting close to exciting now. Will the poor hammer work again? I will need to keep you in tense suspension for a while longer. Disassembly and assembly takes more time than just fixing the damn part. But I hope you admit the red looks very pretty. With that powerful color, I'm sure nothing else will go wrong here. The most important parts are back together, and now I'm just putting the safety shields back on that protect the assembly from careless fingers and too much curiosity. The big question though is whether this actually was the fix or not. Alright, this is not quite what I wanted, but it can be fixed easily by adjusting the throttle linkage. The adjustment basically determines the cutoff for the valve that puts the compressed air to work to lift the ram back up. This looks much better now, fine control and the power of 75 pounds of weight. I know, for those of you with real power hammers this is puny, but for me it's much more than I can swing with my puny arms. While I usually avoid showing myself in these videos, I am overdue for a 3mm shear of my hair. I can promise you it has happened since. Let's quickly try whether the power hammer actually works when forging. Assuming it does, I am back in business and can get back to the charity drive for Second Harvest, making Mandalorian Beskar. Check out my video on that. This looks quite solid. The power hammer is good for a few more years of work. Of course, what I did not show you here is that shortly afterwards my compressor assembly tore apart as a corroded pipe nipple started leaking air. So that's what I'm repairing right now. For those of you who support me on Patreon, I admire your patience. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up and comment. I will see you next time.